Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Microbiology Simplified. I am Dr. Amit Kumar Singh, MD Microbiology working as professor. So this is another video of Parasitology lecture series, and in this video I am going to discuss about the various modes of transmission seen in protozoan parasite. It is important to know the mode of transmission, because if you know the modes of transmission you will be able to understand few things such as the organ involved in that particular parasite, the habitat of the particular parasite, the host of the parasite, and you will be able to understand the life cycle too. So let's start with the video and see that how this information about the modes of transmission will be going to help you in the NEET PG examination to crack the questions based on that. Okay, so let's start with the video. So the various modes of transmission which is seen in protozoan parasites, first is the ingestion, that is fecal-oral route. Fecal-oral route. So this is basically occurs by ingestion of food and water contaminated with the infective stage. Okay. So first one is ingestion of food and water contaminated with the infective stage. So this mode of transmission occurs in almost all the all the protozoan parasites in which they have cyst or oocyst as their one of the morphological forms. So if the amoeba is present in cyst or oocyst form, then the usual mode of transmission of the infection is by ingestion. So always remember this. If you see or if you remember that the morphological form of that particular parasite is cyst or oocyst, then the chances are very high that the mode of transmission is by ingestion of food and water contaminated with either cyst or oocyst. Now the next mode of transmission is by inhalation. Inhalation of the infective stage. This is particularly seen in protozoan parasite which are free living. Free living. And if you remember the name, free living are Naegleria, fowleri, acanthamoeba, and Balamuthia. So among the free living amoebs, the transmission occurs by inhalation of trophozoites or the cyst through nose or nasal mucosa. Okay, and it also occur in case of anthamoeba by ingestion and by trauma. Okay, now the next mode is by insect vector. Insect vector, that means a vector which can suck the blood during its meal. Okay, so again this insect vector is classified into two types. One is biological vector and one is mechanical vector. Biological vectors are true vectors. Why I am saying that biological vectors are true vectors? Because in biological vectors we can see the parasite can develop or multiply. Can develop or multiply. So that's why they are true vector. Whereas in mechanical vector, They don't develop or multiply. Okay. So this is the basic difference between this biological and mechanical vector. So the true vectors are the biological vectors, and it is seen in case of, if you remember, host, plasmodium, and the hemoflagellates, leishmania and trypanosoma. Okay. So in them the mode of transmission is by insect vectors. These insect vectors are true vectors because in them the parasite will develop or multiply. Okay. Now the next three different modes of transmissions are direct transmission. Direct transmission means transmission from person to person. Okay. And this can occur either by kissing or by sexual intercourse. Common example of transmission of infection through kissing among protozoan parasite is Entamoeba gingivalis, and the common example of sexual transmission among protozoan parasite is correct Trichomonas vaginalis. Okay. Vertical transmission, what is it? From mother to fetus. Okay. Vertical transmission occurs from mother to fetus. So for that it should be present in blood. So the examples will be blood or in tissue. Plasmodium, the hemoflagellates, that is trypanosoma, leishmania, and coccidian parasite, that is toxoplasma gondii. Okay, and what is iatrogenic transmission? It is transmission either through blood transfusion or through organ transplantation. Okay, so either through blood transfusion or organ transplantation. So again, all these agents which can transmitted vertically can also be transmitted through blood transfusion, that is plasmodium, trypanosoma, leishmania, toxoplasma gondii can be transmitted iatrogenically. Whenever I am saying plasmodium, also include Babesia. So if you just go back, you'll see that plasmodium including Babesia, leishmania and trypanosoma can be transmitted through insect vector, and they can also be transmitted vertically and through and iatrogenically, that is through blood transfusion or organ transplantation. But Toxoplasma gondii, as the mode of transmission is basically ingestion, because they contain oocyst as one of the morphological forms. Remember, I told you that if a parasite contains cyst or oocyst in the life cycle, then the usual mode of transmission is through ingestion of the food and water contaminated with it. Okay, so the usual mode of transmission in case of Toxoplasma gondii is through ingestion of oocyst. However, it can also be transmitted vertically and iatrogenically. Okay, so now let's see this flow chart. So the protozoans, ciliate, coccidia, the amebs and the flagellates. And the last one is sporozoas and hemoflagellates. So if you'll see the ciliates, the coccidian parasites, the amoeba, especially the intestinal, and the lumen dwelling flagellates, what is common in them? They contains either cyst or oocyst. Oocyst is present in coccidia, okay, and cysts are present in the ciliate Blendedium coli, the amoeba, the intestinal amoeba, and the flagellates, that is lumen dwelling flagellates. So the mode of transmission, what will be? Ingestion of food contaminated with cyst or oocyst. Okay, and also there are certain exceptions. If you remember, in lumen dwelling flagellates, Trichomonas species do not have cyst stage. So the mode of transmission among them is direct, that is person to person through sexual mode. Okay, and in case of toxoplasma, apart from transmitting via ingestion of contaminated food and water containing oocyst, it can also be transmitted by ingestion of undercooked meat containing tissue cyst. If you remember, the tissue cyst basically contains bradyzoite. Okay. However, the free-living amoebs, as they are free-living and living freely in freshwater bodies, they are usually transmitted through inhalation of the trophozoite forms, and also cyst can enter when the person is swimming in the pool or any other water bodies. In case of amoeb, it can also be transmitted through ingestion of the trophozoite and cyst and through trauma. Okay, and the amoeb and this Balamuthia mandrillaris can also be transmitted through contaminated contact lenses. Okay, so they can also be transmitted through contaminated contact lenses. So if in a question, if it is mentioned that the transmission, that the person has used a contact lens, then you may think about the transmission of Acanthamoeba and Balamuthia mandrillaris. Okay, because they can also be transmitted through contaminated contact lenses. And what they cause? They causes keratitis and keratoconjunctivitis. Okay, so Naegleria fowleri through inhalation, Acanthamoeba Balamuthia mandrillaris commonly through ingestion, inhalation, but can also be transmitted through contaminated contact lenses. Okay, so now moving on to the sporozoans and the remaining flagellate, that is the hemoflagellate. In a sporozoan, basically the hematozoan, the coccidian are transmitted through ingestion of contaminated food and water. However, the hematozoa, the another is sporozoa, as they are present inside blood or tissue, that is the plasmodium and babesia. The mode of transmission is by insect vector. Okay, mode of transmission is by insect vector. And in case of trypanosoma leishmania, which also reside inside tissue and blood, again the mode of transmission is by insect vector. And what are the vectors for these are? So the vector for plasmodium is, very good, female Anopheles mosquito, and for babesia it is Ixodid ticks. And in case of trypanosoma, there are two different species. One is Trypanosoma brucei and one is Trypanosoma cruzi. So for Trypanosoma brucei, the insect vector is, yes, fly, and for cruzi it is triatomine in case of Leishmania, it is sandfly. The scientific name is phlebotomus. And for this, the scientific name is Glossina. And trichomin bug is also known as reduvit bug. Okay, so these are the insect vector for the sporozoan, that is the hematozoan parasites, and the hemoflagellates. So I believe it is very simple to remember the various modes of transmission. So just do a quick recap. It can either occur by ingestion, that is fecal route, by inhalation, which is particularly for the free living amoebs, through insect vector, which may be biological, which may be mechanical, and then direct transmission, that is from person to person, either kissing or sexual intercourse, vertical transmission, that is from mother to fetus, and nitrogenic transmission. So the protozoan parasites which are transmitted vertically and nitrogenically are same, that is Plasmodium, Babesia, Trypanosoma, Leishmania, and Toxoplasma gondii. Okay, and for insect vector, the name of the protozoan parasites are same for the vertical transmitted parasites and the nitrogen transmitted parasite, except the Toxoplasma, which cannot be transmitted through insect vector. The example for a mechanical vector, I forgot to tell you, is housefly, which can transmit entamoeba and cause amoebiasis. So they can simply transmit the cyst form from the feces to the food. Okay. So ingestion and bite of insect vector. These are the primarily two modes of transmission seen in protozoan parasite: ingestion and insect vector. And exception are there. First, Trichomonas, which is transmitted sexually. Toxoplasma can also be transmitted apart from transmitting through contaminated food water by ingestion of undercooked meat containing tissue cysts, and free living amoebs transmitted through inhalation, ingestion, trauma, or through contact lenses. And through insect vector, Plasmodium transmitted via female Anopheles, Babesia via exotic ticks, Trypanosoma, the two species, Brucei through Sessefly, that is Glossina, Brucei through Trichomin bug, that is Rudibid bug, and Leishmania through sandfly, that is Phlebotomus. So I hope I was able to explain this topic well to you. So just go through this topic, it will help you to understand the life cycle, and once if you'll understand the life cycle, it will be easy for you to understand the protozoan parasite or the parasite itself, because if you remember the life cycle, you will be able to answer a lots of questions which may be asked in this NEET PG examinations. Okay, so all the best. Prepare yourself for the examination the best you can do. Take care. Bye bye.